Alright, people, welcome back to another film review. So today, I'm doing a trilogy of sorts. I'm going to be talking about 3 horror movies that I've seen that I just thought deserve a little more coverage than they've gotten, that I've seen them get, because they're pretty bad. I've seen these 3, and I'm going to talk about them. So the first one I'm going to spend about half an hour on average on each of them. Although it is very late, so I'm going to be shuffling through my thoughts in order here. The first one is Sony's Escape Room. Everyone complains about Sony Animation, but Sony's horror department is equally atrocious. Escape Room was really bad. PG-13 horror doesn't work because you can't have legitimate fear without even the mention of sex or violence. You don't need to show the sex or violence, but there at least needs to be a tangible amount of fear. I hate Goosebumps. I won't bring it up right now, but I saw Escape Room, and it's basically like PG-13 Saw. And it was really, really bad. How would I describe it? I actually went into it with kind of high expectations. I didn't just watch it because I knew it would be bad. The trailer looked kind of and I've never seen Saw, so I figured, maybe this is a little different than Saw. I know what Saw is. I mean, I know what the premise is and everything. But I just thought, this is an interesting, original concept. It's not exactly like Saw. I mean, escape rooms are a big trend these days, so I can understand a horror movie taking advantage of that. And the twist is, it's a killer escape room. Okay. So, the thing about this movie is, the premise and the execution is okay, but then the ending is horrible. It's horribly written. I don't know who wrote this thing, but just picture for a minute a Twilight Zone episode with no twist, or if you've never seen Twilight Zone, picture any really interesting premise, and you keep thinking, well, what's the ending of this really interesting premise going to reveal? And actually, the people behind this escape room, their only motivation is that they're evil. That's their only point in devising this insanely complicated death trap. And then, one flaw with the movie is that the idea is that one person dies every stage, but one person doesn't necessarily have to die per stage. They could potentially all survive until the end. And also, I just thought, is this like a crazy, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like they'll all be alive at the end, or is it like one of them is in on it? One of them, that's a classic narrative. You put 5 people in a strange situation together. They have to figure out who's lying, who's telling the truth. But the answer is, all of them are telling the truth. They're all just people. They're all just randomly selected people. And the only real twist is that the black guy happened to kill someone because he had to, because he was stranded on this CGI boat out in the middle of the Indian Ocean. There's no twist. There's no twist. It's just that this evil corporation just manages to break all the United Nations human rights regulations in one day, and then they're able to dismantle all of the death traps in one day and take out all the evidence. And the sequel baiting It's just the worst. The sequel baiting on this was unbearable. I couldn't stand. And if there is a sequel, I'm not going to see it because they lost me with this first movie. This really stupid, horrible. At one point, it's the pool room scene. The classic song. It's a nice song. It's Downtown. It's actually pretty clever. The pool room is upside down, so if someone falls, they'll be going, downtown, right? This idiotic kid, he's like, I don't want to listen to this elevator music. And it's like, geez, have some respect. It's like, that's not the worst part. The worst part is there's no floor and you're gonna die. What a bunch of whiners. I mean, the acting is like, but they don't really act like their lives are in danger. Like, I feel more like in that situation they wouldn't be like, they wouldn't be like talking about how the music was or like trying to solve the puzzles as much as they would just be trying to like pick up any object they can and just kind of trying to smash through the wall. I mean, it's just a building. But the evil corporation has freaking holograms, and the leader of this big evil corporation is just this guy at a desk, and he doesn't have a face, and he's all spoopy. What even were they thinking? And to think that they could stuff a moral message in here with the black guy who let his guy on the other boat die or whatever. I mean, it's a movie about a killer escape room. You can either treat that like a joke, or you can come up with a clever plot, or something that means at the end, the last guy to win, he's greeted by one guy, I kid you not, and he says, I am the game master. They only provided one guy at the end. And he's like, okay, where's the money? The $50,000 prize that's promised to the winner of the escape room. And the game master's like, well, do you think that the horse that wins the Kentucky Derby wins money? And then he tries to choke him with wire, and it's like, yeah, the horse that wins the Kentucky Derby doesn't win money, but but they don't kill the horse, and this isn't the Kentucky Derby, it's an illegal operation. So what I would suggest is either that, I mean, you could just give him the money, and then chances are he wouldn't mention it. He could shut up. It could be like a bribe, or you could just, like, I don't even know. Because if the person who wins just gets killed, how is that even a competition? I mean, the point of the escape room is that, it's like a competition, and it's just like a normal escape room, except it kills you. So what's the point if the winner dies? Shouldn't the winner just, win? I mean, even Death Race 2000 does it better than this. They don't kill the winner of Death Race 2000. But it's just a really ridiculous, nonsensical, bad movie. Let me see how much time I have left. Oh, okay. So, just a very bad movie. Overall, I give it about half the stars that it could have gotten. I mean, if the last 30 minutes had been any different, it probably would have been a lot better. But the ending is so disappointing and anticlimactic. They put in all the work to create these really interesting, six escape rooms or whatever, 7 or 5, or I forget the exact number. But, they're all pretty creative, interesting type escape rooms. But the ending is horrible because the villain is cardboard. And the villain doesn't even have a name or a face. And the villain is thoroughly implausible because, you couldn't pull something like this off. You can't just rent a building and then, send out 30... You can't send out 5 mad puzzle cubes to people, and everyone will solve the stupid puzzle cube, and then you kill 5 people, and then they all just and then you dismantle these 6. I mean, the Ice Pond one even has a hologram, and they dismantle all of this in less than a day. I mean, how many people are working for this illegal organization? I mean, based on the ending scene, it must be like thousands. But what? I mean, think about if the Jigsaw Killer had a staff of 1,000. No, that's stupid. Nothing like this exists on the internet. Overall, it's just a fear-mongering movie like Slender Man about the dangers of technology or something. I mean, this isn't really even about technology. It's just about escape rooms. What's the point? Is it that rich people want to see poor people die? I don't know. I don't even know. I mean, obviously the people who run this thing are just sadistic, but why did they set up a competition where the winner doesn't even get $50,000? What's the point of that? It's like, sure, the people who lose get killed, but why choke the person who's smart enough to get through your stupid little game? Give him the $50,000, he won't talk. Or, I mean, I guess the winner of this one seemed like he had a lot of integrity, so he probably would cough it up. I mean, you just can't rent a building and fill it with these death traps and there's no records of it or anything. Now look, I know this might sound like I'm nitpicking, but here's the thing. Horror, especially when there's no supernatural element involved, horror needs to have its limits or it becomes very boring. Part of the point of horror is that there's this extraordinary element in this ordinary world, and if the world itself is extraordinary, it's ruined. I mean, likewise, even if there is a supernatural element, magic needs to have limitations placed on it. If Gandalf could just teleport and throw the ring into Mount Doom, there wouldn't be any story. The point being, escape room is bad. It's not. Before the end, it looked like it was going to have a really interesting, worthwhile payoff. Like one of the people could say, "Ha, I'm a double agent." It could be the fat guy who they give electric shocks to on the heart. Like he could step out and you could say, I was behind, if one of them was a traitor, that would be interesting. But none of them are traitors. They're all just 6 random people who are recruited for this. The premise is exactly what it appears like, so it's boring. And then it pretends like it's not even a horror movie. It's like it's a escape thriller, and then you got this pumped up action scene at the end with this prop airplane. And it's like, it's a joke. I don't know what Sony Pictures is even trying to do anymore, but based on their recent records, this is not a good sign for them. This is a bad movie. And the poster has the main character's face, and she has her face is split up in like puzzle pieces, and below the puzzle pieces it's a skull, and it tries way too hard. Killer escape room? It's an okay premise. I mean, escape rooms are, a big phenomenon of stuff these days. I mean, whatchamacallit, there's ARG in some Asian country. Mary Jane Mendoza That must be made on a lower budget than Escape Room, and even it manages to make Escape Room seem scarier than the movie from Sony Pictures made for $1 million, Escape Room. You know, I'm never going to partake in an escape room. I mean, unless there's a money prize or something. I just think they're boring, and I don't even know if there are any in Denver, Colorado, or I doubt there are. I mean, I'm sure there are, but they're everywhere. I don't like trends like that, but, you know, a movie, it could be okay. The one thing this movie had to do was to have an interesting payoff, right? Just like an interesting ending. I don't think the rooms were that clever. I mean, you've got upside down pool room, you got Fahrenheit 451, as if that's like one of the clues. The main character is all smart. She uses all this science lingo in the first part, and then her roommates is like, have fun playing with your box, immature teenager, haha. And there's references to the Karate Kid for some reason. Let me see how much time I have left. I don't know if I've even spent a half an hour talking about this, but, yeah, the end message, I guess, with this is, Escape Room is bad, and don't watch it. Okay, on to movie number 2. Movie number 2 is Pet Sematary. This is better than Escape Room. It's actually the best of the 3 I'm covering in this video. Pet Sematary is what I would call a competent Stephen King adaptation. I haven't read Pet Sematary. I need to, because I'm sure that the book must be better than this movie, but I'm not sure how. I mean, I'm sure it's better. This movie was pretty fun. I mean, you could watch this movie, you could enjoy it, but it's nothing to get hyped up about. And this is, odd, like, it's a Stephen King adaptation, but there was almost no hype for this thing. And it really has the production design of like a made-for-TV movie. So there was almost no... This wasn't hyped up. I firmly believe that the last good Stephen King adaptation is The Green Mile with Tom Hanks. That's the last really... the one you have to see, like, before you die. I will always think that Stand By Me is overrated, but the other ones are pretty good. There's It with Tim Curry, great. There's The Shining, best horror movie ever, or in the top 5. And then you got Shawshank Redemption, great. You have, what else do you have? I think there was an original Pet Sematary which I need to see. There's Carrie. Carrie's amazing. There's Cujo, and then there's Misery. Misery's amazing. Misery's great. The point being, Stephen King is the closest thing that the modern era will ever have to an Edgar Allan Poe. He is the master of horror. I bought his latest book, The Outsider, and it was great. I mean, he hasn't lost his touch. The only part I hated was this one part where the main characters are talking about the golf club that you urinate into, because that's kind of an old joke at this point. It wouldn't have come on in 2018, which is when I think the book is set. Apart from that, really good book. Everything except the golf club you urinate into. The point being, Stephen King is a master. But this movie it doesn't master horror like Stephen King does, which isn't to say it's not a fun movie. It's a pretty fun movie, and you know, it'll scare you if you're easily shocked by like jump scares or stuff. Sure, I don't think Stephen King really relies on those. I don't know if they're in the book. I heavily doubt it. But you know, if you want to be scared by jump scares, movie for you, but it's not the movie really for me. So essentially, you know, I mean, it's a classic story. I know what Pet Sematary is about, even though I haven't read it. You know, you put your dead pet in the cemetery, and then it comes back alive as a zombie version. So my main problem with it is that none of the characters are that interesting. They're okay. They're pretty, you know, just average people. The opening scene, family gets to this, you know, old house. I mean, this is what I like. It kind of breaks the trope of like a creepy house. The house isn't that creepy itself, but they go out to the backyard and there's this procession of children in animal masks walking into the forest. I'm sure this must have been in the book. It's amazing. I mean, this procession, this funeral procession of like kids with animal masks. They're carrying their dead pet back to this pet cemetery. You know, that's really scary. It's like Children of the Corn, Village of the Damned. I'm scared. You know, I'm intrigued by this group of children who have this strange, otherworldly ritual in this remote little Maine town or wherever it is. Stephen King always sets his books in either fictional cities in Maine or Colorado, or his latest one was set in Oklahoma. I like him particularly because, you know, he's willing to set his books in interesting places like Maine or Colorado or Oklahoma, or, you know, places that don't get very many movies set in them. But the point is, Pet Sematary, there's a... So, the old guy in this is okay. The mythology that they set up for Pet Sematary, that it's the Wendigo, pretty lazy. I've heard about the Wendigo before. I want some original Stephen King mythos, like from Dark Tower. I don't want the Wendigo. That was a little lazy. I don't know if that's the explanation King gives in his book. If it is, the Wendigo is old news. You know. But this movie, the old guy is the best actor of the whole movie. Let me see how much time I have. Right, so the old guy is the best actor, and you can really tell that he's pretty dedicated. Now, there's a part where the dad, he's trying to resurrect his daughter, right? So he goes to the old guy, who's sitting outside this campfire. You know. And the dad pours drinks, or maybe it's just water, I forget. I think it's some beverage. I forget if it's alcoholic or not. It doesn't matter. He picks a packet of something up. It's like this powder, and he pours it into the old guy's drink. So I think instantly, oh, he's poisoning the old guy, right? But then, the old guy, in the next scene, after he's resurrected his daughter, the old guy just wakes up. So what's the point? It was just sleeping powder. What's the point of putting it in his drink? You know, trying to be all covert about it. Doesn't the old guy ever sleep? You can just wait until he goes to sleep and then go up and dig up your daughter. I mean, he's not expecting that, would he be? I don't know. But the point is, that scene really set me up for thinking, oh, he's poisoning the old guy. But he didn't. So what was the point of the scene? It's like, you know, it's Chekhov's gun. It's a basic rule. I mean, I guess it's because he's a doctor and he's taken the Hippocratic Oath, but I mean, if you're going to go to the trouble of disturbing your daughter's grave, Why stop at not poisoning an old guy who could potentially, stop you? Or you could just wait for him to go to sleep. The other part is there's this subplot. The wife in the movie, she had this sister who had like a deformed hunchback posture, and it keeps going back to like all these hallucination scenes or whatever, where like her sister's all icky and then she's the sister or whatever, and there's like a phantom dumbwaiter. I felt like I was trying too much to be The Shining. In one part, there's this picture on the wall, and it's of, her and her sister when they were young. But I thought it was like an Easter egg for The Shining, but it's not. And again, like, let me check. 3 minutes. I'm just going to cut because I have a lot more to talk about with this. Pet Sematary. With Pet Sematary, overall, I feel like must have been like a deleted scene with these kids in the animal masks, because that's the best part of the whole movie. That's the best scene. It's really creepy, but they're never brought up again. As for the ending is okay. It's a little, disappointing. I don't really mind a disappointing ending in horror, just so long as it makes sense. I guess the ending made sense. It's depressing, but, the family's already pretty effed up as it is, so, I won't go into spoilers there, just in case you'd want to see this, but, it was pretty... I definitely think the age of good Stephen King adaptations is behind us. The Dark Half is one of the most underrated, best movies I think it's possible to see. It's so good. Robert Stark, everything, very good. This one, pretty meh. For the master of horror, it's not that. If you're into zombies or you're into... There's a part where he brushes the hair aside and there's like stitches, and it's like, is that from the morgue or is that from the Wendigo? Lots of parts that aren't really explained of it, but it's watchable. It's a competently written, competently shot horror. It just doesn't do respect to Stephen King. Alright, 50 seconds. Pet Sematary, I give Escape Room, I give it 5 out of 10. I give Pet Sematary 7 out of 10. It was alright. It was pretty fun. Just don't expect like any of the sophisticated stuff that you would normally get from Stephen King. Stephen King is a genius. He deserves better than these low-budget, made-for-TV stuff, Pet Sematary, it's a thing that exists. Alright. Final movie now, The Intruder, and I'm gonna spend 30 minutes talking about this one. I only need 30 minutes combined for the other two, but I need 30 minutes to talk about the mess of garbage that is The Intruder. Sony Pictures Entertainment certainly didn't learn their lesson from Escape Room. The Intruder is even worse than Escape Room. It's a complete mess. Okay, where should I start? Where should I even begin with this thing? The opening has it all wrong. Do you remember? I'm going to be comparing this to Psycho and The Shining because those are the best horror movies, and you might be saying, well, that's not fair. Obviously, this can't compete with Psycho or The Shining, and my expectation with any horror movie is that it tries to get as close to perfection as it can. And Psycho and The Shining, good examples of the best horror movies that have ever existed, so you've got to start from them. The Intruder starts out with this raucous shot of this car driving through this city, and it looks all cool. And I thought, am I watching the wrong? I actually thought I was in the wrong movie theater because it's like this can't be The Intruder, you know, the scary movie, because it looks like I don't know, it looks like Fast and the Furious or something. But then it calms down, you know. It says The Intruder, so you know it's actually a horror movie and not just like a PG-13 slice of life movie, which is basically what it has to be because it's PG-13. How lazy! I mean, it's about a guy who it's about a psychopath. Make it horror. You pandering morons. So the main two characters is this couple, and then Dennis Quaid is like, and he shoots a deer, and we're supposed to not think he's the psychopath at first, and it's like, yes, he's the psychopath. He just killed a beautiful deer that was just grazing. He's like, it's a pest, you know. And it's like, no. You know, no. This tapestry is treated like a major plot point. Like this guy just cares about this tapestry so much. Isn't that stupid? Okay, so I'm gonna compare Dennis Quaid's character here to Norman Bates and Jack Torrance. Can you imagine, for a moment, in the scene, and this is actually played seriously, like not as a joke, this serious, intense music as Dennis Quaid just like looks at the tapestry and he's like, you took down my creepy children tapestry and you replaced it with a modern art tapestry. I want kill now. Can you imagine if Norman Bates cared about a stupid tapestry, or if Jack Torrance cared about that? So let's examine Norman Bates and Jack Torrance, right? Norman Bates is this isolated, introverted guy. He has split personality disorder. And his mother persona is driving him crazy because it's limiting him and inhibiting him. He's getting all kinds of crazy neuroses. Then you got Jack Torrance. He doesn't want his family anymore. You know, he's sick of Shelley Duvall, sick of his kid. He wants to kill them because he's just so sick of it. Okay, so right off the bat in The Intruder, they're sitting around the dinner, and then Dennis Quaid jumps up and he grabs this bottle of wine. He smashes it over their friend's head, and then it's revealed that's all a dream sequence. Really lazy. And then so of course we know he's crazy at that point, but it's like, think about why The Shining and Psycho are good. With Psycho, I mean, you don't even know Norman Bates is the psych until the very end. You think it's the mother, or, you know, and Norman's just complicit in all of it. And the opening of The Shining, Jack just seems like a normal father, and he gradually becomes more and more crazy, but I mean, you wouldn't think it until he starts running Shelley Duvall up the stairs. These characters have believable downward progressions into madness. you've got to have a basic understanding of psychology to make a movie like this. The boring part about Dennis Quaid is that he doesn't change. He's crazy at the beginning, he's crazy at the end. Nothing is revealed. There's a part where this dumb guy who's like, my car is my temple. Dennis Quaid is walking him out to his car. And he's the same guy he fantasized about smashing over the head with a bottle of wine. I knew that the guy was going to die. I thought, wow, if the movie surprises me, it'll be a smart movie. But no, the guy actually, Dennis Quaid just is like, you thought I quit smoking, didn't you? I did not quit smoking. And then he takes a wrench and just, like, okay, we know he's crazy. You've driven it into our heads enough, as it is. How boring. I mean, he's not even the interesting type of crazy guy. Norman Bates. He taxidermies things. Jack Torrance writes 100 pages of nonsense. Dennis Quaid, the thing that's supposed to make us think he's crazy, is he mows the lawn, gets out the Christmas lights for these people. He orders a pizza. I mean, is this I mean, I know these are supposed to be taken as like insults on their privacy. He just comes off as like the nicest guy, and maybe he shouldn't be so attached to his house, but like, is there anything wrong really with doing free work? I mean, for God. The other thing about this movie is the very irritating PG-13 sex scenes and nudity and whatnot. When the couple first buys the house, they have this really intimate PG-13 romance scene. It cuts this slow R&B song. Can you imagine if The Shining did that? If it just had like, you know, if it didn't have like the foreboding theme. You know, if the end credits of this movie are a rap song with all the F words bleeped out. Can you imagine? Like, the only song in either Psycho or The Shining that doesn't really sound scary is Midnight, the Stars and You, and that's just because it's trying to evoke an unsettling feeling of nostalgia as it pans down the hallway towards the picture of Jack at the party. But it's like, this movie's like, Carolina, you've been... It's not the job of this movie to show us that this couple is in love. We know that. We get it. They're married. We don't need to see them caressing each other. Just get to the scary part. That part is useless. And all it just says is they're trying to have children, which they even exposition dump on us. So then the other issue I have is with PG-13. There's a shower scene in this, which of course is trying to emulate Psycho. It's basically pretty much word for word the exact same thing, except she doesn't get stabbed at the end. So there's no reason for it to even happen. One of the reasons that the original shower scene Psycho is so effective is because there's no music. It's silent until the point when Norman cuts through the shower curtain and, you know, there's the violin. The Intruder treats things that the audience is stupid, so it has this very, very jarring, loud, horror, scary instruments. It's just a shot of Dennis Quaid looking at this lake, and it's like, you know, it sounds like someone vomiting. And it's horrible. Psycho is still rated R after all these years, and for good reason. I mean, it's a really scary black and white horror movie. But it doesn't even have nudity, really. The shower scene is actually, if you watch all the way through, no nudity. It just shows her from the neck up, and then it shows her her hands or eyes or whatever, you know. You had to be clean in 1960, but Alfred Hitchcock was a daring guy, and he's like, to hell with it. We're gonna show a murder on screen. And that was when horror started to pick up and become something that was willing to break boundaries and tell interesting stories. But then you've just got this stupid scene with Dennis Quaid looking at the wife, and it's like the husband is a complete sexist. He thinks just because Dennis Quaid comes over, Dennis Quaid is automatically flirting with his wife. No, he thinks his wife is flirting with Dennis Quaid. And meanwhile, he has the guts to go to a strip club while his wife is home alone with this sexy co-worker. And he doesn't go through with it. He doesn't go in the strip club. He ends up just chickening out. But, like, what kind of main character is that who's so corrupt that he just leaves his wife at home? Maybe Dennis Quaid is a better fit for her. And this guy goes to a strip club, literally. He doesn't go in there, but any main character who do that is just not a sympathetic main character. What a jerk. And his wife, his wife never even shows the slightest bit of romance to Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid comes over with a pizza. She's just like, okay. You know, just treats him like a pretty, just like a friend. And there's nothing. And then Dennis Quaid goes from nice fella who brings the pizza to complete, utter, deranged, crazy guy in 0 to 5 seconds. And there's just this horrible PG-13 rape scene where he just licks her chin. I mean, it should just cut out at that point, and we can assume that he does something horrible. Like, you can't expect me to take this film seriously if you're not even going to have an accurate portrayal of what would actually happen there. What kind of plot is... None of the characters are identifiable, likable. Some people say Dennis Quaid is okay as the psychopath. I want a deep, fleshed out, well-written character that you can kind of think about, wow, an interesting, crazy person. Dennis Quaid isn't an interesting, crazy person. He looks like Bill Nye, and and this is the stupidest, hokey political message I've ever seen stuffed into anything. Dennis Quaid is bad, and he uses the gun, and then the husband is the good guy, and he says, do not use the gun. And in horror movies, I don't expect a statement on gun control. I expect a horror movie. Like, is it because Dennis Quaid is just automatically a psychopath because he uses guns? I think gun control is absolutely something we have to go for. But when I watch a horror movie, I want to escape from the real world, and I want to just have some spooks and scares. And I mean, not that I think it's in any way daring what Sony did. It's just phony, insincere crap. They're just trying to pander to as many people as possible. And it's like, stupid. So stupid. Dennis Quaid's hideout is a massive basement, and its entrance is an upstairs closet that they've lived there for like 6 months, but they never think, what's his closet? And then they realize, oh, it's a secret passageway to where Dennis Quaid is living and squatting, and it's like, my gosh, the characters in this movie just don't act like real characters. Not only does it try to rip off Psycho, it also tries to rip off The Shining. You burst through the door, may as well say, here's Johnny, because that's as original as this movie gets. This stupid movie. Okay, how much time is there left? Oh wow, 20 minutes. I need to talk about this more. Wow. The Intruder, my gosh, it has numbed my brain. That is how horrible this stupid thing was. What else? There is a part where, I mean, I think the credits even have a rocking chair that rocks. That's a ripoff of Psycho 2, isn't it? There are so many parts I could just go on for hours about. That's the kind of movie that this thing is. The stupidest part is that the house isn't scary. I mean, it's not even a little bit scary. It's quite literally a mansion with, I mean, it's got like the big, it's just a fancy, rich mansion. And there's another thing that troubles me, you know. The characters and the setting. The main characters are very well-to-do, upper class, just obnoxious and their friend is like, I wouldn't put a cigarette butt on my seat. My car is my temple. Think about how much more interesting the characters in Psycho and The Shining are, okay? Not the psychopaths. You know, you got Shelley Duvall. You know, just an average person, but not average in like an uninteresting way. She has character and thought put into her. She's not just a sex object like the wife in this movie. You've got Janet Leigh. Even she's a more well thought out, developed, interesting main protagonist than the protagonists of this movie. Arbogast, amazing character. I love Martin Balsam. Arbogast is almost as endearing as Norman Bates. Arbogast, great character. You got Dick Halloran. I mean, just these incredibly written, well-developed, amazing characters. You got... Okay, and then you've got... Okay, so the settings, right? You got the Bates mansion and motel. The motel isn't that scary, but the mansion is like, wow, don't want to go to this place, and then it's like, you know, and Norman has complete reign here, and he could potentially hide as many bodies as he wanted out back in the quicksand pit, because, you know, it's a very isolated spot, and it's a spot where you could, you know, hide all that money, and you know, incredible location, out in the middle of nowhere. Janet Leigh drives all day and just happens to find this freaking creepy motel in the middle of nowhere. Oh my gosh, this is scary. And then you have The Shining. More horror movies need to be set in Colorado, Rocky Mountains. You know, you can get isolated up there. It'd be scary if you were up in the mountains and you were in a hotel that's off for the season, like all the lights still work, all the stuff except the phones don't work, and you're cut off from anything, and the only thing you have at your disposal is like a Zamboni, and then, you know, the hedge maze. The hedge maze is amazing. The movie wasn't actually shot in Colorado, which is something that just ruined my day, but I mean, it is a real hotel, but the only thing is, the hedge maze isn't real. I wish it was. Think about how interesting that would be. You could go up to a hedge maze. I've never seen a hedge maze that cool. I don't think a hedge maze that cool even exists, but, you know, it was shot up in Oregon, and considering that Stephen King was inspired by the Stanley and Estes, I think his remake was horrible, but, you know, it's all about location, okay? So The Intruder is set in California, in Silicon Valley. It's this really rich cul-de-sac suburb, and it's like, this is not a scary location. There's no isolation, there's no defects to the place, everything in it is perfect, and what's more, the characters in this movie, they have access to their phones at all times. At all times. Every scene, you could use a cell phone, but these characters, the husband only thinks to do that in the last scene of the movie. They don't even come up with an excuse, like, it's out of range, or they lost their phones. It's just that they don't think that they can use them. Really, I'm not kidding. Everywhere in this movie has cell phone reception. Everything's working. I mean, it's Napa Valley. It's not scary. California isn't scary. You can't scare me there. Overlook Hotel, horrifying. Bates Motel, horrifying. Foxgrove, not horrifying. It's just a house. Okay. What else? Dennis Quaid's character. Okay. If there's a movie about a psychopath, he's got to be an interesting psychopath. Dennis Quaid's only deal is that he's a crazy guy. That's his only character trait. And, he says, I have a daughter, and, I'm gonna go live with her. And then in the last scene, the husband calls him, and she's like, My father, I've never talked to him. If I saw him, I would kill him. And it is like, this is the backstory, right? He shoved a gun up his wife's mouth and made it look like a suicide. And the cops were just like, oh, okay, I guess it's just a suicide. Even though she had no prior signs of suicide. This is what you need to understand. Right? In a horror movie, the policemen need to make reasonable decisions. Like, if there's a crazy husband and the wife is found with a gun up her mouth, and, they can always figure this stuff out. Like, oh, the aim is wrong, or oh, she's left-handed instead of right-handed, or vice versa. Policemen know how to do this stuff. They are excellent at their jobs. The Intruder seems to think that they're inept and they would just let Dennis Quaid go, keep on living there, and somehow the daughter cares about her mother, but she's not willing to try and get Dennis Quaid arrested or anything. She's just like, I mean, they never even check if he has a family. Who wouldn't do that? They'd be like, oh, can you show us your daughter? And then he'd be like, oh, no. And they'd be like, okay, go away. Because obviously something is wrong. He says he's going to leave the first month, and then he sticks around for 6 months. I mean, obviously, something is going on. But the main protagonists are stupid. Think about the policeman in The Shining. There are no policemen in The Shining because it's in an isolated area where there would be no policemen and no one would even think about it. Everyone's forgotten about the Torrance family. They just figure they're doing okay. Then you got Psycho. In Psycho, everything makes sense. You got Arbogast. Arbogast doesn't end up solving the case because Norman kills him, and like he says, he's not even a real policeman. So, and then at the end of the movie, as you would expect, after Norman kills 2 people, they figure it out, and they arrest him and put him in the asylum, because that's what would actually happen. Now you got the Intruder, where there are never any police, they never call 911, and they don't even put up security. I mean, they do put up, like, strobe lights, but they're not even willing to check out the entirety of their house. I mean, this crawl space isn't even that secretive. It's not hidden behind a bookshelf or anything. It's just a door. They could just open that door one day and be like, I want to put some coats in here. And then they realize, oh, it's a secret passage. Like, duh. Oh my gosh. And then it's like, what is, I'm gonna check how much of the time. The Intruder is also scary. I mean, it's not scary. Think about The Shining. Not only is there the potential physical threat of Jack Torrance, there's also all the ghosts, which are real spoopy. You got the twins, you got the butler, and then you got, the whole room full of skeletons, and you got the bear guy, and you got all this stuff, and, it's freaky, okay? Then you got Psycho, and, there's no ghosts in it, but it's scary, because, I mean, he has a split personality, and he keeps his mother's corpse in the basement, and on the rocking chair, and, it's just like, how stupid is that? Okay, now we come to the motivation, right? Dennis Quaid's motivation in this movie is, I mean, he's just a crazy guy. He doesn't have his mother's corpse, or he's not surrounded by ghosts, or there's nothing to keep us invested. He's a guy. He's not scary. He kind of has muscles. You really think he's like, that's not a horror movie, it's just like an action movie, but like I said, Sony Pictures can't have anything thought-provoking because it's PG-13. Think about the motivation, right? His only motivation is he is attached to his house in a crazy man sort of way. He can't let go of his stupid house, right? Now, here's the thing. If this guy is willing to literally kill his wife, would he really care about if he was in debt and had to sell his house? No, he would just squat there and then kill anyone who tried to shove him off, or, I mean, he's crazy. He's supposed to be crazy. Why does he bother selling it if it means his mental health to him? Here's an idea that he could kind of do. He could sell the house to the couple for more than it was worth. Like, a lot more than it was worth. They'd probably be stupid enough to buy it. He could go out, pay off his debt, and then with the rest of it, he could buy back the house from them. But that's not scary. It's too sensible. So instead, he sells the house, and then he just hangs around there. Or he says he stays at the hotel. And here's the weird part. It's revealed at the end that he's never been at the hotel. That's supposed to be like the twist or whatever. But there's clearly a scene where he's like sitting on a bed and he's like smiling all creepy, and he's like looking at pictures and stuff. And he's obviously in a hotel room. So did he just sneak past the receptionist, or did they just let him stay there free? Because that's obviously not the crawl space. It's just kind of sloppy writing that brings it down for me, the quality. But think about the motivation of Norman Bates. At first we think it's the money, right? He sees that she has some money, and he's like, I want the money, obviously, right? Or you could think, oh, well, he's a pervert. But even though he has a peephole behind the painting in his taxidermy room, he doesn't care about sex, because when he's in his split personality mode, he just wants to kill. That's his sole motivation. That's why the remake, where he does it to himself outside the shower, is not scary. It ruins his character. He's not he's not, I mean, at the end it does say he was a little in love with her, but the point is, he's not lewd. When he's in crazy mode, he only wants one thing, and that's blood, and to sink everyone who he hates in the quicksand pit. Then you got Jack Torrance, right? His motivation is, he doesn't want to be in the Overlook. He doesn't like his wife, he doesn't like his kid, he wants to go hang out with all the ghosts and be at the bar and talk with the ghost bartender, and he wants to, live it up, and he wants to be at the party, and shower lady. I mean, it says something about his character that even he is scared by shower lady, bathtub lady, who at first looks all pretty, and he embraces her, and then she turns into this old crone full of scabs, and he's like, he gets out of there. Because even though he's a psychopath, he has basic human intuition and fear, and he's scared. That's a realistic, well-written, complex character. You get to Dennis Quaid. All he wants is his stupid house. What kind of nut just cares about a house so much that they sell it and then they just hang around there and act all nice? What even? Okay, 5 minutes left. I've gone on quite a tangent about the Intruder. My final thing to say is this. In Psycho, Norman Bates just says, I was making a sandwich and milk. Come on in, just eat it. I can't eat it. He's just trying to be friendly. He's not, and he easily could be the murderer even after all that. I mean, he's just giving her a sandwich and some milk. Nothing that, it's just casual. And they just have a casual, interesting, human conversation about it. They discuss it like rational, thoughtful people. And then you have the stupid Intruder, where he spent 6 months mowing their lawn and buying them pizza and wine and bringing out the Christmas lights. That's not a psychopath. That's just a nice guy, and I don't care what you say, that's not creepy. It's not. He's just a nice guy, and then in the last 5 minutes of the movie, he has this massive character swing where he's engaging in the PG-13 sexual assault. What a lazy, bad movie. Okay, that's all I have to say about it. And like I said, that's the worst one out of the 3. I give it 3 out of 10 stars. Dennis Quaid, I mean, I can see what everyone else is saying. He does try, but he doesn't stop to think if this is a compelling role or not. It's not. Everything in it is cliche, bad. I can't stand the stupid thing. Horrible. Horror these days is just not as good as it could be. I saw Hereditary. Hereditary was great. All the praise it gets, totally deserved. Hereditary is amazing. But Escape Room and The Intruder, they're bad. And Pet Sematary, so that's my reviews. And now, if they're up on YouTube, I might, after this is done, I'll give you a little comparison of the Psycho scene and the Intruder scene, just to show you how they differ. But until the shower scenes, so until then, this has been your 3 horror movies I just think I need to get out of my system because they're so stupid. By Nicolas Comics, Nicolas Cicada out.
I'm riding through your block,